A Riddle in the Middle of the Way. New Reflections about Isaiah Leibowitz by Dr. Alon Giladi. On Man and Being.
This is a short book on man, a world and its fullness, but not on that which is beyond it. A short book on a human being, and his name is Yeshayahu Leibowitz, and on his doctrine legacy. The world given to discovery through our intellect stands on the simple things. But as much as the basic things are simpler, so too is great the difficulty to discover them, and how much more is great the difficulty to walk in them. And all this why? Because before our senses are revealed the things in their complexity, and their true basis, the simple and the full, is given to discovery through our thought, despite that in practice it is not possible for discovery, by definition. Among the things whose product is seen as complex, but their basis is simple to the limit, and at the same time unattainable, man, ha-Adam, male and female, is situated. This is man as a world and its fullness, as the most complex creation of creation, known to himself at this stage. From the very understanding and the assumption that the truth is situated in the most basic details, arises and stands immediately the insight that man is not situated as himself in the center of the things. Not man as himself, and not his concepts, and not his materials are situated in the ultimate purpose, tachlit, of the things, but rather something more basic and simple, something sublime from the physical and the material as itself. The beginning of the things is not in man as a totality as himself. The truth that is in the basis of the things does not derive from man as himself, who is its complex product, and this is to be distinguished from the process of its discovery. The truth is not given to him, to man, by definition, since it includes by definition that which is beyond him. Only the walking in the paths of the truth is given to man. Only it is given to him, and it is his ultimate purpose. This walking is not situated in a pure manner in the thought of man, but rather only as a combination that is between it and the being which it is necessarily part of, which is part of an ultimate purpose of development embodied in a constant striving to the discovery of the inclusive truth, which will never be attained. Man is not the point of departure for the truth, but rather for the research of the truth, which is from his perspective a constant process, as part of the middle of the way that is between the beginning and the end, which belong to the being that is unattainable to him. The true, absolute beginning and end are not known to man, and cannot be known to him as himself by definition, despite that he aspires to their knowledge, and to them by being part of the being, and subject to its rules. Man wants to return to the safe Garden of Eden of his mother's womb, to the space and the time closest to that which preceded his knowledge and his self-awareness, to the perfect bed of the seemingly pure, rational, personal past, to the moment that preceded his knowledge, and more than that, to the moment that preceded the reality of being. At the same time, man seeks to understand the inconceivable infinity, which he walks toward in a rational, experimental manner from the moment of his departure to the world of being, which is in practice in a rational manner, a unity between the is and between that which preceded the reality of being. This is that same human aspiration imprinted in us for the discovery of the truth, which is as itself, which is for its own sake, by its very nature, shared by the sublime thought of man, whether as a humanist and whether as a believer in the one God. The thought of Yeshayahu Leibowitz, this the formal and this the informal, walks in a contemporary world that most of it, according to his rational taste, is not truly humanist and is not truly a believer. His weary legs, his feverish brain, and the shackles of his tongue strived in a raging foam against the current of the human world built from the aspects of thought, and the faith in it patches upon patches, errors upon errors, beyond the mistakes imprinted in us from the very fact of our being human beings. All the direction of the thought of Leibowitz is toward a reasoned return to the paths of the truth, which they are forever from the perspective of man, situated in the middle of the way, not in its beginning and not in its end, which, as stated, are not known to man, and will not be known to him forever. As in every matter and thing that is between the senses and the thought, I seek to distinguish between the external thought of Leibowitz, which I call the formal Leibowitz, and between the conclusions arising from its analysis and even from its refutation, which I call the essential Leibowitz. In this composition, I will claim that the legacy of the essential Leibowitz, contrary to his words and even to his formal image, is a legacy of a return to the rational middle way, or more precisely, the faithful rational. Here I will claim and seek to prove that this is a return to the way that is between world of above and world of below, a middle way which it is the worthy way of man, as part of the being, included in the one undefined God. But to be distinguished from the impression of the rebuke, the general smashing of idols for its own sake, and the absence of a system in his revealed doctrine, I will claim here that the refutation of the formal Leibowitz leads us necessarily to a systematic middle way, to an objectivization of the faith in a way of truth to which he aspired, but could not reach, as is the way of the great thinkers, who pave a way against the reality of their time and against the reality of themselves. The importance of this short composition is in its innovation and in the manner of its innovation, also in relation to the prevailing thought in modern and postmodern times. The outlining of the beginning of a way that is essentially different from that in which the human thought walks in the different levels beyond the world of technology and matter for a long time, too long. This is an innovation rooted in the past and looking toward the future both in the theory of wisdom and in the theory of faith, which are perhaps modern in their chronological development, but problematic and anachronistic in terms of their disconnection from their basic ultimate purpose. This is an innovation that is entirely a demand for correction, arising from the very essence of the wisdom and the faith for their own sake, which involve within them in a basic and essential manner the thought of man. This is the unceasing striving toward the unattainable truth, the action according to the rational or the faithful truth, and more than that, according to both of them together. This is the claim that man must respect the faith of his fellow, but as much as man asks himself, and not only for his sake, what is the religion of truth, he must ask himself, and first of all himself, what is the religion that truly aspires to the truth? The innovation that I will discuss here is not in the nature of something from nothing, for such is not given in our hands, and cannot be given in our hands by definition. This is also not an innovation upon innovation as itself, which leads sometimes insights to a boycott on the past, and necessarily to an error and a dead end for its generations. This is an innovation that is specifically, and nevertheless, a return to a way of new and old together, both in the Jewish thought and in the general thought, moral, philosophical, and faithful together. An innovation that comes without a doubt to place also, but not only, the way of Judaism back to its essential path, back to a path that is for its own sake, which is a path of truth for its own sake. In the hinted words of Leibowitz, which repeat themselves and are planted properly within the framework of a short story, or such or another anecdote, I would anticipate already now the end of this composition. Here and now, I will say, in a nutshell, that the examination of the legacy of Yeshayahu Leibowitz leads to Limud Torah, study of Torah, to be distinguished from Talmud Torah, to a constant and renewing understanding instead of constant rote repetition. A Limud Torah, study of Torah, which is a constant understanding of the rules of the whole Torah, from within an exemplary proof, from within a constant refutation. The examination of this thought will be done therefore on the basis of the understanding of the essential Leibowitz, and not based on the rote repetition of the formal revealed Leibowitz. Through the refutation of the central arguments of Leibowitz, to be distinguished from the summary of his revealed words and their repetition, I will seek to discover his legacy, his true, systematic, proven doctrine. This examination will be done from a point of departure and toward a system which I will call, throughout the length and breadth of this composition, by the name, a faithful logical system. This shall be a point of departure opposed to the formal position of Leibowitz, and correcting it. A system from within the refutation of the formal Leibowitz, who claimed repeatedly and claimed that he did not leave behind him a doctrine and a system. A correction from within the refutation of the thought of man, who claimed that the faith, the values, and the science are completely separate and parallel worlds. I accept the position that when you approach to examine the doctrine and the legacy of a man, you must observe it in a broad manner, and not according to a verse here or a verse there. how much more so not according to a word here, a word there? Not less than this is it true that we must respect the thinkers, and how much more so those who act in a manner that is for its own sake, whether it is about Leibowitz or others. But as far as it is about a rational objectivization of the reality examined by us, whether scientific or moral or faithful, behold the greatest and the truest respect toward the previous thinkers, who seek to walk in the paths of the truth, shall be in the refutation of their claims and their approach, and the finding of more correct claims and approaches toward their refutation, and the finding of better and more correct ones than them. The great or the greatest teachers are those whose students surpass them, from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Joseph, and after a pause, to Moses, our teacher, and onward. Contrary to the position of the formal Leibowitz, I will claim here that the faith, the wisdom, and the science are seemingly different layers of one truth. These are layers of the ultimate purpose of the existence of the thinking man, which do not contradict each other and are not parallel, but rather specifically complement each other and are situated on one factual plane from the perspective of man. The science, the wisdom, and the faith as complementing layers of a search, necessary as itself, after the existing truth and at the same time unattainable by definition. And in other words, from the field of the faith according to Leibowitz, this is a search after the correct worship of God that will never be completed, whose peak is the act of the faithful logical prophecy and its faithful logical interpretation, as will be proven and clarified in this composition.